Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here. It's a new year, Christmas is over, and I got something to add to my collection. Anyone who's been hanging around with the channel for a while now will know that I have a particular fondness of a certain Mr. Doshin the Giant. Yes, it started off somewhat as a joke, and has now become a real genuine interest. Let me show you my collection. It is a small one. Let's go in ascending order of rarity. So we have Kyojo no Doshin, this is the GameCube version, which is the most common. It's the Japanese version. This one is reasonably cheap. You can get it pretty much anywhere, and by anywhere I mean obviously eBay. It's complete, sans a few little stickers for the memory card, but that's okay. And it's just a nice thing. It's just Doshin the Giant. I don't think I've ever actually even opened this before now. I actually really like the form factor of these. It's like a thick Switch case. And then we have this. This is my original copy of Doshin the Giant, which admittedly I only bought a number of years ago. It's not like from my childhood or anything. This is the European version. It was never released outside, except obviously in Japan and stuff like that. But this version, the English version, only ever released in Europe, not North America. I don't make the rules, and my crowning jewel in my collection, this may look innocuous, but this is, and I want to be genuinely quite careful with this, the original Kyojo no Doshin for the 64-disc drive. If you don't know what that is, look it up. And this is complete even with the cardboard sleeve. It's obviously not sealed or anything like that, but then I want to be able to look inside. And there it is. This is the original Doshin the Giant right here in my hands. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, some people who are aficionados or collectors themselves may be looking at this and going, oh, well, it's only a few games. You know, even the 64DD version isn't super rare. Oh, it's creaky though. But this is my collection and I'm very proud of it. This was a gift from Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. As indeed is the new part of my collection, which you will see in a moment. Thank you again, Paul. But what I have in my hands here is every version of Doshin the Giant. It's as simple as that. And I think that's pretty cool. But there's always something that was released actually only a few years ago that I was never, I mean, I was able to add it to my collection, but I can never justify it because it was not super expensive, but also not cheap, not like impulse buy kind of thing. And that I got it for Christmas this year anyway, or I suppose technically last year. What we have here is the original soundtrack for Doshin the Giant on vinyl. Now, there are a number of reasons why I couldn't justify buying this for myself. Number one, obviously the expense. It's a frivolous thing, and you know, I've got a wedding coming up. And the second reason is even more important, and you're probably thinking, Alex, have you given this a listen yet? Have I buttons? The other reason I didn't buy it is because I don't have a record player. That's why it's still sealed and shiny and everything, but don't you worry. I will be opening this up. You know, I'm a collector, but also I like to see the things I'm collecting. I'm not going to seal this in plastic and charge $4,000 for it or whatever it is. I'm not that kind of guy. But when I do get a chance to listen to it, and I will, and I fully intend to, I will then be taking it out of its plastic. And not before, because it feels like a momentous occasion to do that, you know? I want to enjoy it, I want to experience it. And obviously, I want to digitize it so I can listen to it again without fearing that I'm going to be scratching the record, which I live in that fear every day. And with this record, my collection grows. This was pressed in 2022. It's a really recent thing, so I like to think I've had a tiny part to play in that by sort of bringing a bit of a Doshin love back into the fray. You're going back in your cardboard, mate. But I was telling a semi-fib earlier. This is indeed every version of Doshin the Giant, or Kyojo no Doshin, kind of except one, but it's kind of not a game. It's complicated. I'm just going to get into it. How about that? So the original Doshin the Giant on the 64DD did indeed have a sequel sort of expansion pack kind of thing. You had to like jump between the two discs anyway, and it had a hell of a name. Prepare yourself for this. This is not a flimsy excuse for me to look it up because I can never remember it. Generally referred to as Doshin the Giant 2, was Kyojo no Doshin Kaiho Sensen Chibiko Chiko Daishugo, which I have probably butchered the pronunciation of. And that roughly translates to Doshin the Giant Tinkling Toddler Liberation Front Assemble. And that is genuinely not a joke. And as far as I know, so far, it is the only major release on a video game system to primarily be focused around the idea of wetting the bed. It's not, I'm not making this up. To be fair, if you played Doshin the Giant, you'd probably expect something like this from a sequel. Now, copies of this game are available. I can go on eBay and I can buy one right now, but I'm not going to, because if I can't justify, I can't even remember how much it was, but if I can't justify spending this on an LP that I can't play easily, why on earth would I spend probably in excess of £2,000 on a game I can never play? And game is being generous. I am never gonna buy that game, frankly, even though I do kind of want to, you know. There's a sort of a sense of, oh, you know, if I could have everything, I would have everything Doshin related then, you know, beyond like some promotional stuff and like that giant inflatable that was at Space World. Was it inflatable? I don't think I can use the image. But everything that was publicly released, you know, I would own everything Doshin. It's just, I'm not willing to pay that price because that's too much money for something I can't play. It's just too much money. And before anyone, if there's anyone out there who's got a copy who's like, oh, I'll give it to you, Alex, do not give it to me. It is worth far too much money. And frankly, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking it anyway. So you keep it. It's yours. But even if I were to be able to get my hands on Doshin the Giant 2. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying Doshin the Giant 2. Even if I owned a copy, I wouldn't have everything. Because there's another thing that's even rarer. To give you some context, the reason that I'm saying Doshin the Giant 2 is kind of barely a game is because it needs to interact with the first one, and it's basically progression tied to the first game that then sort of unlocks video clips in the second. I'm doing a gross generalization here, but at the same time, I'm being weirdly accurate. You play as a child who is sent to sleep after playing Doshin the Giant 1, and you see Doshin and he's trapped, and you have to you have to urinate on other children and billboards and Doshin himself in order to free him, and doing so and progressing will unlock certain video clips for you to watch. Video clips taken from something called More Than Giant, or in the original Japanese, I can't remember. Kyojin Ijo, which I've also probably butchered. And this More Than Giant production, this sort of series of videos, they are available in Doshin the Giant 2, as I said. However, there also exists a VHS. And when I say a VHS, I'm being a little broad. I mean two VHSs. As in there are literally two known to exist. There's no way I'm buying myself a copy of Doshin the Giant 2. Not unless I go to Japan and I can get it for like, I don't know, £200 or the equivalent. You know, that would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that. But even then, I wouldn't be able... Cobweb. You need to stay out of the crinkle. Stay out of the crinkle. But if I had Doshin the Giant 2, this VHS exists that I physically can't buy. No one's selling it for good reason, because there's only flippin' 2 in existence, and frankly, even if I could get my hands on it, I wouldn't want it because, to be honest, it belongs in a museum. I'm okay with this fact. I really am, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a bit of fun to be collecting things, and I don't want to be having something that's worth thousands of pounds that I have to feel that I have to baby or anything like that. You know, I'm happy with just my collection as it stands. Maybe it'll grow a little bit, maybe it won't. That's okay, because trying to complete it is mudana. But I'd genuinely like to hear from you guys. Do you have a collection that you know you'll never be able to complete? Or do you have a complete collection of something? Let us know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Paul, for this absolute delight that I will listen to, I promise. If you like this video, then why don't you collect that subscribe button, and maybe one day you'll have all of them, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.